For those of you looking for a 6-seater Ford, it limits you because the higher end packages don't come with that. I wanted the massaging seats and a couple other features, so I wanted the King Ranch or higher, and unfortunately those only come with consoles. There is hope for you if you need to seat 6 people in your truck. You can pull out the console and put a jump seat in. I was able to get my jump seat off of eBay. You can get yours from a junkyard or online or something. And I was able to do this whole thing for about $1,000. I had the upholstery matched and I had all the trim pieces purchased. That was the most expensive part, probably. So you can basically purchase a King Ranch or a Limited or a Platinum version and take the console out and throw a seat in there and get your 6 seats like you need to. Hope this tutorial gives you a little bit of heads up. I went in blind as there weren't really very many tutorials out there showing people how to do this, so I figured I'd make something for anyone else looking to do what I did. Step 1 will require removing the seat. To do that, there's 4 bolts that hold it down. The bolts that held the seats in were 13 millimeters. These plastic covers will need to be removed. This is what they look like. There's 2 kind of movable edges that hold it in and then a base here. A screwdriver popped it out pretty easily. Just be careful not to break those. Once you get those 4 bolts removed, folding your seat forward as far as it'll go before you disconnect power, leaning your seat back, you need to remove this wiring harness. You're going to push down on this to release with your thumb, release this, and then it should just unplug. You'll need to undo this by holding it at somewhat of an angle and pulling it off very carefully. This is plastic, so be careful. And you'll have to remove 2 harnesses on the driver's side. There's a little tab that you push to remove that. And then as far as getting this off, I was able to get the other one off pretty easily by tilting it at an angle. Just kind of pulling, came off without it breaking anything. Just remember that thing's plastic, so it could easily break. All right, seats forward. And this guy comes right out the front door. Once your right seat is out, you can use a plastic tool to pop this. I popped it right about here. It came off pretty easily. And then that exposes the bolts that need to be undone. And these side bolts in the console are 10 millimeters. This front one up here, it looks a little smaller. I'll get you a number on that. There's another 10 millimeter bolt hidden right here. There's a plastic trim piece that you can pry off. I stuck my trim removal tool right in here and was able to pop it off without any incident. This is what the inside of it looks like. Driver's side console trim piece is a little bit different. There's a small 7 millimeter bolt right there that you must remove before prying it off. Once that 7 millimeter bolt's removed, you can easily pop this trim off. Just make sure to pull it straight off. There's 6 connections, 6 plastic clips that hold that in. Now we're removing the 10 millimeter side bolts on the console. Remember to take this clip off right here. Get this one out. Okay, once you remove those 6 bolts on either side, you should be able to lift up the back of your console and slide it right out. We'll now disconnect these wires and get this console removed. This big white one is very similar to that black one. I know my hands are in the way here, but same kind of setup. Just pull that little thing and it'll slide right out. So to undo this one, just lift this clip right here with the screwdriver. Comes out. It's a little mini USB. Okay, we're on the passenger side. We're gonna remove this wire. That thing should just pull straight down without breaking. Just be careful when you pull it. There we go. You can just lift this console right out of it. Okay, you can shut it. So we'll remove this ducting. Easiest thing is just stick it in there, pry it open, take it off that little edge. You're good. To remove these side panels, these gray ones with the vents, you're gonna need a dash removal tool to pop this up. There are 3 clips in there, and then 2 bolts that you'll have to remove with a 7 millimeter wrench. Once these 7 millimeter screws are removed, you can then pull this whole fascia off. Now there are 5 plugs on mine to remove, 3 at the top and 2 at the bottom. and then you can set that aside. These silver side pieces popped off, just straight off. I had 2 wires on the passenger side, cigarette lighter and inverter, and then on the driver's side I just had the 4-wheel drive cable to remove. The vents from the trim pieces, and then my components like my inverter box, my 4-wheel drive component, and I set them aside. Next I'm going to move this bottom trim piece with 7mm socket. So I removed the wiring harness from the console. This big mess is that wiring harness, and I'm trying to get it to basically go into that seat so that I still have access to many of my ports. For instance, my USB, all that stuff. So I ran that wire underneath this carpet, and I undid these 2 main plugs. This is the USB and this is the power plug to the inverter and all that other stuff. I removed them from here, and I'm gonna kind of reconnect them behind so that my trim piece will fit here without any issues. In order to get my USB hooked up correctly, I had to do some mods. Here's the USB port that was in the console up front right here. It requires power, which was midway down my wiring harness, and because I'm relocating everything, I had to basically snip this off. Let me see if I can find the snipped piece. It was about 2 feet down the end of it, and getting this cloth off is nearly impossible. So I just snipped it and soldered. I'm gonna clean this up before I install it. Soldered these on. It was the blue and yellow wire and the white and light blue wire with that connector on the end. The blue and yellow one here, and this weird tan and blue, tan and green one, connect to the USB port, which is this one. And you can see where those go. Got my 7mm socket to remove the CD drive so I can get that air vent out. We need to remove this console air vent box. You can see that there's a screw there, and I removed this screw already on this side. It's a Torx T20. Once you remove those Torx nuts, you gotta try and get this guy out. You don't actually have to pull the whole CD drive out to get this out. Just move it forward about 2 inches, and then you can get the rest of this guy out. This is the duct that directs the airflow into the center console rear vents. I used some aluminum duct tape stuff to block it off. You can use regular duct tape or whatever you want to block that off. Okay, we've got this new center piece that we purchased. Put the USB in, got this 12-volt adapter all plugged into the back. We rewired a bunch of that stuff, which was kind of a nightmare. And now we've got 4 mounting holes that we're gonna put this into. This will have to lift up, and as you can see right here is a mounting hole, right here and right here. And then there are 2 down below, which we will have to do, and then it'll look just like that. And there are 2 on the top, and I don't know what size the bottoms are. I'll get those in a second. Okay, these are the 10mm bolts that go into the bottom of this. These actually came off the console. They were what was holding it to the front dash. So here and here are where they're located. Okay. These are the silver trim pieces that go with the vents. I swapped out, I bought the new one. This has got no cutout here, so it's one solid piece. Swapped out the vents, swapped out the dials, and it was missing a couple of these white plastic things that I just took off the other one. So this is easy. Just make sure you hook up your 4-wheel drive component and snap the dang thing on. Okay, we got it in place. Now we're just gonna snap her on. Same process with the passenger side. Make sure you hook up all your stuff before you put it on. Shift this guy over out of the way so you can snap it, and repeat the same process. Once you get your front fascia reinstalled, you'll reinstall these top 2 7mm bolts. Make sure to hold positive control on them, because if they fall down in there, you're gonna have to remove all this stuff again to find them. Then you'll snap this top piece down, and you are done with your front panel. Now it's time to install this piece. As you can see by my janky cut, this is not the correct piece for the stuff with the rear air. I don't know why it doesn't fit, but I had to cut and modify it. And it's gonna be down below against carpet, so I don't really care if it looks super good, but I had to take probably about 1.5 inches off the very bottom to fit. There is a couple of snaps on the inside, 3 total, and then a screw on the driver's side. Slid that in and snapped the 2 on the passenger side. After this snap in and screwing this guy in, it is a 7mm socket. This is the KV antenna so that you can start your car using the wireless key fob. I removed it from the center console. It was underneath the cup holder area. I removed it and I am placing it here. I had to modify this a little bit because it had a thing so that it could go on this way, but my wires won't reach. So I clipped that plastic off, set it there, and we're gonna use the old zip tie to keep it on. Clean that up, and this guy's ready to be plugged in. Okay, we got our middle seat replacement. It hasn't been reupholstered yet, but I'm testing the fitment before I get it, pay $400 to reupholster it. So I'm loosening the 3 side bolts, one on each side. Put this guy in here and see if it fits. Using the existing brackets from the console. Not surprisingly, it fits perfect. I've put the seat in. That was kind of a pain in the butt. Remember, there's 3 screws on the right side, the passenger side, and 2 screws on the driver's side. I was able to put those in without having to remove my driver's seat, by the way. So that was pretty nice. I'm gonna put the passenger seat back here in a second, but wanted to show you the wiring setup that I've got here. So this is the top armrest that I have. I went ahead and put a 110 volt outlet in there that was in the back of my center console because I wanted to use all the options that I had available to me. I drilled it out, kind of a pain. If you get like a router or Dremel or something, you can do it pretty easily. So finished soldering the wires to that connector, and I've run it through a hole here, and I trimmed a small notch there for when this goes back on. The guy who redid my seat actually broke some plastic off of it, so you can kind of see that's supposed to go there as a hold-in. We'll see what happens once I put it on, if it stays or not. Basically, plug and play, reinstall. It's super easy. That's why I didn't run you through it on a video. And then I'm gonna snap this guy in and see what I got. Both seats are put back in. Got the middle console in. I'm somewhat happy with it. Wish I would have got different vinyl. I don't think it matches very well. Stitching looks good though. And waiting for that seat to shrink up and get tight in the heat. But overall, I got myself a middle seat now. Here's the end result of the center console to jump seat conversion. Here's the jump seat after about 9 months. The vinyl's tightened up. I'm still not happy about the texture difference, as you can see here, but everything seems to be holding up well, and I'm happy with the conversion.